Alright, so I'm back in part 2 of this Ferris wheel example where I got interrupted. Anyway, I could ask you all kinds of things like, where will the, how far off the ground will the person be at the start of the ride? Well, remember, the start of the ride is time 0. So if I use the trace button and I hit 0 for the time of the ride, I can find out that this person was 15 feet off the ground when the ride started. That means that they were not at the bottom of the ride, because we know at the bottom of the ride they're 5 feet off the ground. I could ask you, how long does it take for a person to make one trip around the circle, or one trip around the Ferris wheel? Well, that's the period of the function. So we just calculated that earlier and got that to be 30 seconds. So how long would it take to get back to that spot? Well, so it'd be at 30 seconds, right? I would be back to 15 feet again. Well, they asked an interesting question here. It says, assuming the ride will continue for at least 2 minutes, find all the times at which Darlene is closest to the ground. Well, closest to the ground means she's down there at the bottom of the ride at 5 feet. So how am I going to figure that out? How am I going to figure out when? Well, can we figure out the first time that she makes it to 5 feet? Could we calculate a minimum value? So let's calculate minimum, and then find a value on the left, and then find a value on the right. And we know that it takes 25 seconds for her to get back to the bottom. Well, then how do I find another one? How do I find this next one over? Well, don't I just have to add the period of the function? So 25 plus 30 would be 55, right? Yep. And then 55 plus 30 would be 85, right? Yep. And then 85 plus 30 would give me 115. That is still within 2 minutes, 120 seconds. But as soon as I add the next 30, I'm going to jump outside of that, and the ride will have been done. So I can't include that as a possible value. So using the period of the function, once I find the first one, then I can, suppose I wanted to know, to find the maximum. Well, remember, the ride says it took 10 seconds to get to the maximum the first time. So wouldn't it be 10 plus 30 is 40, 70, 100? Well, then that's obviously the last one, because I would go past 2 minutes if I went past, added another 30 to the 100 seconds. So I could ask you, all the times at which a person is at either the maximum or the minimum. Or if it was something fairly obvious. I probably wouldn't get too ugly with you unless I gave you a particular time to use. But that's how you can use your graphing calculator. So that's part 2 of the video that was interrupted. And I can't think of any more good questions that I will ask, although I will look and see if there's anything else that would be good for me to ask.